Right, today we are looking at lesson 10.4, which is all about factoring to solve our quadratic equations. For our warm-up, I want you to start by doing numbers 1, 2, and 3, which is all about solving equations. So again, we will be looking at solving equations today. When you are done trying 1, 2, and 3, I want you to move on to 4, 5, and 6, which is all about factoring our expressions. That way, as you're warming up, you're working on both solving equations and factoring. So right now I want you to pause the video, try the warm-up. When you are finished, hit play to check your answers. Alright, at this time I will assume that you have already tried the warm-up, so let's double check your answers here. Number 1, we start with the equation 6 plus 4n equals 2. On both sides of our equation we can subtract 6. That will leave us with the new equation 4n equals negative 4. On both sides of our equation we can divide by 4, which will leave us with n equals negative 1. On number 2 we have a over 8 minus 9 equals 4. On both sides of our equation we can add the 9. This will leave us with a over 8, or a divided by 8, equals 13. Again, to get a totally alone, we will multiply both sides by 8, so we will get a equals 104. And on number 3, we start with the equation 7q plus 16 equals negative 3. On both sides of our equation we can subtract 16, which leaves us with 7q equals negative 19. Again, on both sides of our equation, to get q alone, we will divide by 7. This leaves us with the fraction q equals negative 19 over 7, or you can say that it's about negative 2.7. As we are working today, I want you to get used to doing things in fractions and using this sort of the answer. Negative 19 over 7, or again, you can say it's negative 2 and 5/7. Again, on to 4, 5, and 6. We're looking at factoring each expression. We're going to factor these using the AC method. The first thing we always look for is a greatest common factor. 2c squared plus 29c plus 14, however, does not have a greatest common factor. There is nothing that will go into each of these terms individually, so we begin our AC method. A is 2, c is 14, so we go 2 times 14, and we get 28. We break 28 into all of the pairs of factors. So 1 and 28, 2 and 14, or 4 and 7. Which of these pairs will add up to make this 29? Well, that pair is going to be 1 and 28. That means we can break 29c into 1c and 28c. So our new expression now has 4 pieces. 2c squared plus 1c plus 28c plus 14. We now group the first 2 terms together, like so, and the second 2 terms together, like so. Looking at each of these groups, we need to take out the greatest common factor. In our first group, we can take out the greatest common factor of c, so c comes to the outside and it leaves 2c plus 1. In the second group, we can take out the greatest common factor of 14, and it leaves 2c plus 1. Notice, in both cases, you have a greatest common factor on the outside, and what was left over on the inside, 2c plus 1, also 2c plus 1. Both of these are saying we are taking 2c plus 1, so that is going to be one of our binomial factors. In one case it is multiplied by c, in one case it is multiplied by 14. So our other binomial factor will be c plus 14. This leaves 2 binomials, 2c plus 1 and c plus 14. This is the factored form of this expression. Let's move on to number 5. Same concept. We're looking at 3p squared plus 32p plus 20. There is not a greatest common factor, so we begin our AC method. A is 3, c is 20. 3 times 20 will become 60. What are the factors of 60 that will add to 32? Well, we make our list of the factors of 60. 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and 15, 5 and 12, 6 and 10. which of these pairs will add up to make 32. That's going to be 2 and 30. So we break 32 up into 2p plus 30p using these two factors here. We now have 4 terms instead of just 3, so we group them together. 3p squared plus 2 is one group. 30p plus 20 is our other group. Within each group, we can take out a greatest common factor. So in our first group, we take out the greatest common factor of p. In our second group, we take out the greatest common factor of 10. Notice that each group then is left with a 3p plus 2, 3p plus 2. So one of our binomial factors is 3p plus 2. The other binomial factor is p plus 10. These were the two greatest common factors that we pulled out front. So your factored answer then is 3p plus 2 times p plus 10. And the last one of our warm-up, number 6. Just like before, we always look for a greatest common factor. 4, negative 21, and negative 18. There is not a greatest common factor that can go into each of those, so we begin our AC method. 4 times negative 18 will become negative 72. Negative 72 can break into all of these factors. So we have the positive and negative group of 1 and 72, 2 and 36, 3 and 24, 4 and 18, 6 and 12, 8 and 9. Which of these groups, or which pair, will add up to negative 21? That will be right here, positive 3 and negative 24. Oops. So we split negative 21x into positive 3x minus 24x. Again, these two factors. Now we split these groups of 4 into two different groups. 4x squared plus 3x plus, because of this minus here, we consider this a negative 24x minus 18. So we have one group and another group. Within each of these groups, we can take out a greatest common factor. In our first group, we can take out the greatest common factor of x. So we take out x and it leaves 4x plus 3. In the second group, we can take out a greatest common factor of negative 6. This leaves 4x plus 3. We must take out a negative 6 and not just positive 6, so that this group and this group say the exact same thing. They both say 4x plus 3. This means then our two binomial factors are 4x plus 3 and x minus 6. This concludes the warm-up.